push down.
Injections of something called human growth hormone.
Wait 5 seconds. Take it out.
Why was it important to make him taller?
Charm can only get you so far. Good looks can only get you so far. He has to deal with the real world.
And you think height will get him that much farther?
It might.
Wesley Clark was not your average general. He's an unusual mix of warrior and intellectual. First in his class at West Point and a Rhodes Scholar.
And I'm here to announce that I intend to seek the presidency of the United States of America.
And now that he's running, the general wants to use all his war experience to convince voters that President Bush has made big mistakes in Iraq.
This plan didn't consider the aftermath. It didn't work through to the political conditions that were what the war was all about.
Life is one big party for Felix Dennis, not that different from the party on the pages of Maxim. He's a modern-day Hugh Hefner, living the Maxim dream.
Do you know how much fun it is to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 beautiful young ladies around your house for the entire weekend who are in the mood to party?
Do I know how much fun it is?
Yes, do you know how much fun that is?
No.
I'm Dan Rather.
I'm Bob.
Good evening. The government has charged Ameridebt, one of the country's largest credit counseling firms, with deceiving hundreds of thousands of clients. Stocks rallied today, snapping a 4-day losing streak. And John Lennon's handwritten lyrics to the song Nowhere Man sold for $455,000. I'm Anthony Mason, CBS News.
Epson T001, Canon BC31E.
Shopping for ink and toner in most stores is hit or miss.
HP C9720.
Come on.
A.
At Staples, we stock a huge selection of cartridges, so we guarantee we'll have the one you need. Online or in store, promise.
HP 45.
Bingo.
Your ink and toner in stock. Staples, that was easy.
More business news at cbsmarketwatch.com.
Do you dream in chocolate? Then discover the Lindor truffle, crafted by Lindt's master chocolatiers. When its lusciously smooth center starts to melt, so will you. Lindt.
Excuse me, do either of you snore?
Not me.
What? Oh, here's you.
Oh, yeah, here's you.
Your snoring might be more annoying than you think, but with our Snore Relief Throat Spray, Breathe Right now relieves the two most common types of snoring. It works for raspy throat snoring, while classic Breathe Right strips work for congested nose snoring. Studies show they help 85% of all snorers and their partners sleep peacefully through the night. Snore Relief Throat Spray from Breathe Right.
What's new about Ziploc freezer bags? Tired of throwing away freezer-burned food? The new improved Ziploc freezer bag can help. Our unique Freeze Guard seal has an extra thick layer of plastic right where you want it the most, at the seal. Ziploc freezer bags help keep freshness in and freezer burn out.
Hi, Pam. You cooking out too?
The improved Ziploc freezer bag, now with the Freeze Guard seal. Redesigned with you in mind. S.C. Johnson, a family company.
I'm gonna wrap myself in paper, I'm gonna dot myself with glue, stick some stamps on the top of my head, I'm gonna mail myself to you. Oh, I'm gonna tie me in a little red string, I'm gonna tie blue ribbons too, climb up into my mailbox and I'm gonna mail myself to you.
This holiday season, no one will work harder or go farther to keep us all connected.
A teapot, toy robot, some gadget they have not got. Toolkit, oven mitt, a pink polka dotted dress you hope fits. Goldfish in a bowl and a new fishing pole. Oh, and a doll that says goo for your little niece Sue. Grand total, $300. The perfect present for one and all, for ones who are big and ones who are small. Priceless. Use your MasterCard and you can win a trip to Universal Orlando.
The big one is back at Kohl's, our biggest one-day sale of the year, with great early bird specials from 6 a.m. to noon only. Like an extra 15% off all shoes and kitchen electrics, already on sale. It's the big one at Kohl's this Saturday only. Kohl's, give happy, get happy.
CBS Friday. Did a Navy All-Star throw a killer pitch?
He intended to hurt him. Do you think you should be court-martialed?
Plus, a Marine brags about murder.
He told me he killed a man. What really happened that night?
I didn't kill him, but the truth is top secret.
What is the big mystery?
There's a national security issue. All new Jag, CBS Friday.
The things that make us different are the things that make life interesting. Celebrate our differences. CBS cares.
If you want to be president, it might be helpful to be a general first. Generals have become president 8 times in our history. And now, while the country is at war, another military man wants to move into the White House. Wesley Clark is a retired Army 4-star general who jumped into the race only 2 months ago and moved right up to the top of the pack. We caught up with General Clark this past weekend in Washington in between campaign appearances. We got a revealing look at the Wesley Clark behind the impressive resume and learned why he thinks he should be the first general since Eisenhower to be president. If I ask you to say the one thing above all others, this I believe, what would it be?
Oh, this I believe in accountability, responsibility, performance of duty, dedication. My profession has been a profession of arms, and it's been a profession of duty.
Respected for his military expertise, keen intellect, and diplomatic skill.
Wesley Clark was not your average general. He is an unusual mix of warrior and intellectual, first in his class at West Point and a Rhodes Scholar. Clark rose quickly through the ranks to near the top. He was Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, a 4-star general who dealt with officers and diplomats and led NATO forces to victory in Kosovo. But even at those heights, he found inspiration from very unmilitary sources.
And maybe it was Bob Dylan who said it best in his song, Blowing in the Wind, when he asked, how many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man?
Clark quoted that anti-war anthem as he retired in 2000 after a brilliant 34-year military career. He was a company commander in Vietnam, shot 4 times in a firefight in 1970. He was awarded a Silver Star for leading his troops despite his wounds. After Vietnam, Clark steadily climbed the Pentagon ladder, promotion after promotion, to ever more important posts. But even as a top brass, he was a hands-on commander who seemed to know everything about what his troops were doing and how they did it.
Okay, that's that new sniper rifle that you were telling me about, huh? 50 caliber. Thank you.
Candidate Clark favors gun control, abortion rights, and a constitutional amendment banning flag burning. He wants to roll back some of President Bush's tax cuts and would use that money to expand health coverage for children. But Clark's strongest messages are about how President Bush and Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld have handled the war in Iraq.
We went to war with on the basis of misleading information. We hadn't exhausted all the diplomatic options. We didn't have an imminent threat. We didn't even have adequate forces to handle the operation. The armed forces are way overstretched for what they can reasonably be expected to do, assuming that we continue to maintain a presence in Iraq.
In the history of warfare, it's hard to find anything that was more successful. So what are the chances that Donald Rumsfeld was right?
You have to plan for the aftermath. This plan didn't consider the aftermath. It didn't work through to the political conditions that were what the war was all about.
If elected president, Clark says he would try to make U.S. troops in Iraq part of a NATO force under American command, and that he would put a non-American in charge of the Iraq reconstruction. And he argues the war in Iraq has diverted resources from the overall war against terror in Afghanistan and elsewhere.
We have to take the lead in using our scarce resources to focus on what the real problem is with terrorists. And that real problem is not in Iraq. That problem is still where it was originally, and we didn't finish it.
That's not the first time Clark has differed with the Pentagon. During the 1999 Kosovo War, he clashed with then Defense Secretary William Cohen and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Hugh Shelton. Even though he led the successful campaign with no American casualties, Clark was relieved of his command and forced into retirement a few months later. At the time, no one said publicly why he was forced out, but 2 months ago, Shelton charged Clark was fired over, quote, character and integrity issues. Shelton has refused to explain his remarks. Clark says he was fired because he argued that the U.S. should have been more aggressive against ethnic cleansing in the Balkans.
Just it turned out that we had differing views about the importance of preventing another round of genocide and how to do it. And I thought, you know, when you're a senior officer, you have an obligation not just to answer the mail, but to speak up and to speak out until you're told not to any longer, until you're told we're just not going to do it.
So you think this with General Shelton has to do with policy, that you...
Oh, absolutely. We never had anything to do with character and integrity.
And military and foreign policy are what brought Clark into the presidential race, but only after he overcame some opposition on the home front. Tell me about your wife, Gert. Did she want you to run?
We've been married for 36 and a half years, and we've gone through our full Army career together. She was my partner, my friend, my advisor, my coach, my love, but she didn't want me to run.
What'd she say to you?
Well, she laughed when people called the house in February of 2003 and said, we want to talk to General Clark and ask him to run. She would snicker. And finally it came down to the anger inside at the way the men and women in the armed forces were being used and abused by the administration.
And I'm here to announce that I intend to seek the presidency of the United States of America.
But Clark discovered he wasn't ready for the political combat of a campaign. He stumbled right out of the gate. First, he told reporters he would have voted for the congressional resolution authorizing President Bush to go to war against Saddam. Then he said he wasn't sure, and then said he would have voted against it.
At the time I'd made this statement, I was having what I thought was an informal, I wasn't clear whether it was on the record or off the record, discussion about the philosophy of sort of entering the presidency, and somehow the Iraq question got thrown in.
Well, not somehow. You knew that was coming.
No, I didn't. But when it came, it's the kind of, there's no question that it wasn't what I wanted to say.
Now, Clark says, he wouldn't have voted for the resolution that passed, but a different one that Congress never voted on. Whether it was intended to be on the record, off the record, or in background, I think you'll agree, if not tell me, that on something as important as whether you would have voted to give the president the authorization to support to go to war or not is a situation where your yay should be yay and your nay should be nay.
I always said I would vote for a resolution that gave the president the leverage to go to the United Nations and then come back to the Congress for the authority to go to force.
Clark finally got some semblance of a campaign rolling, with reinforcements from veterans of Clinton and Gore campaigns. There's the private jet, the motorcade, the nervous advance men waiting to brief the candidate.
Mr. Walsh Brown is going to be giving your introduction.
The speeches and photo ops. And oh yes, the voters. Still, Clark's campaign schedule always leaves time for a daily swim, something he's been doing for years. One day last week, there was even time for an impromptu calisthenics lesson for CBS News producer Bonnie Cap.
A few exercises.
How many can you do in a row?
Oh, I don't know. I used to do 100.
Looked like tough push-ups to me between chairs.
Well, it's the best way to do them because that way you don't have to get down on the ground and mess up your shoes or get your hands dirty and so forth. So if you just got a couple of minutes and you can find 3 chairs that you trust, you put that together and you get a great workout.
Lately, though, there's some signs his campaign is wobbling. Clark is raising money, but he dropped out of the mid-January Iowa caucuses and is well back in the pack in New Hampshire. He's strongest in South Carolina, where he has to win, and in other states with primaries on February 3rd. But as the campaign has heated up, so have the negative comments from former peers in the Army. Somewhere along the line, Wesley Clark developed a reputation among some others, Schwarzkopf,
Shelton, Tommy Franks. Just something about Wesley Clark that teased me off. Has that been your experience?
Listen, Dan, I don't know if we can ever set aside gossip. What I learned in the military is that gossip starts early and it stays forever. And all you can do is do your best to be who you are and work through it.
For Clark, the negative talk just... Clark plans to testify next month at the war crimes trial of Serb President Slobodan Milosevic. And he believes strongly, as you'll see and hear, that the U.S. should intervene with troops in genocidal civil conflicts.
I want to show you what a policy dispute's all about. This is Bijeljina in Bosnia-Herzegovina in 1992. This is what ethnic cleansing is or was in the Balkans. These are Serbs. These are dead Muslims. This is the casualness, the pornography of violence against civilians. And this is not real war. This is war against unarmed people. I just couldn't bear the thought that the United States would stand by and allow this to happen.
What is the other picture you have marked?
In the summer of 1998, while I was in command, another round of ethnic cleansing started. Some 300 to 400,000 Kosovar Albanians were driven from their homes. And in the mountains, this is what you saw. This is a 5-week-old baby who's died of exposure, and the family's preparing him for burial. When you can stop something like this, you should.
General, when you speak of this, it's the first time I've seen you speak with real emotion.
Yeah.
Deep-seated emotion. Tell me why that is.
Why? Because you're dealing with people's lives when you're dealing with things like this, Dan. You know, there were people in this case who said, we don't have any interest here. I mean, there's no oil. If there were oil here, we'd stop this. So we'd rather fight for oil than to save lives. I don't think so. I don't think that's what this country really believes or what we stand for. So I do get emotional about this because when you can do good, you should.
But General Clark does not think the U.S. should have gone to war with Iraq for humanitarian reasons, as some in the Bush administration argue. While he acknowledges the brutality of Saddam's regime, Clark says he doesn't feel the situation justified the American invasion.
What do you love about Ziploc Easy Zipper?
I just love this zip thing. It's so easy. Zip it.
I love the sound it makes. Ziploc Easy Zipper bags. My kids think it's really cool how easy it is for them to use it. They have trouble